The next speaker is Richard Miller, the Managing Director of Halstock. His background is economics and he served in the army, which he's followed with experience in the oil industry in Eastern Europe and Asia stockbroking. So a broad experience, now Managing Director of Halstock, who design, manufacture and install luxury bespoke interiors. They promote creativity and craftsmanship throughout our industry. Richard.
Okay. Like going to a wedding as a best man. It's always more enjoyable when the speech is over. So, the slides are actually going to be a series of photographs. They should all change. There should be 245 of them, 3 seconds. And when they stop going, that's 15 minutes, and that's when I'll sit down. So, Halstock cabinet makers. Who or what is Halstock? We have a turnover of 6.5 million. We have makers, veneerers, specialist finishers, installers, project managers, designers, CAD, CNC, all with certain skills. We could be described as a manufacturing company in the Southwest, but I prefer it to be described as a group of people who work together voluntarily. And I want to focus on people, really. So, understanding what motivates people is important, because if you get an understanding of what motivates people, you can get an understanding of what demotivates them. And if you have demotivated people, you don't have a business. So what works for you, and what are you asking them to do? When your employees are driving home at night, are they excited about working at Halstock, or are they not? To me, as the MD, I think that's an important thing to consider. So greatest assets are people. And that's expertise and knowledge. Culture, come up a couple of times. I think culture is probably the most important aspect of a business. It's unique, but something that's unique is not necessarily good or bad. The objective is to make it good. One of the questions when we're interviewing people is to ask within ourselves, are they on culture? Because if someone's off culture, then they're very unlikely to succeed in our environment. And what does the culture embody? It's attitude. Came up a couple of times here. Behavior, professionalism. There are other things, planning, teamwork, taking decisions, accountability. But ultimately, you want somebody who actually do unto others as you would have done to yourself. Because they'll be put in front of a client. There'll be internal customers, situations. Also, we don't want heroes, because we don't want to depend on heroes. We want teamwork to prevail. We want our activity to be considered and commercial, working as a team. I noticed in the report, I did actually read a bit of it, it said 50% of companies did not focus on staff retention. I think that's what it said. I mean, to me, that's commercially lunacy. So it doesn't matter how much lobbying is done. I would have thought that's complete lunacy. So what do we try and do at Halstock to create this culture? Actually, an emphasis on behaviour was mentioned a couple of times here. So we've had a behaviourist work in at Halstock, and there's a statement that performance is driven by behaviour. If you don't agree with it, you don't need to get a behaviourist into your business. But if you do believe it, then you probably need some understanding of how that operates. And as I don't know anything about furniture, but I do think I understand a little bit about motivation. So, behaviours, there's sustaining behaviours, there's accelerating, there's blocking behaviours. Coaching, listening. Anyone not have heard of Myers-Briggs in this room? Or anyone heard of Myers-Briggs? Okay, so it's not in itself a destination, but it's help. 16 personality types. It's quite interesting to know what you are as an individual and what other people who work for you are. Some people would not consider that behaviour is one of the reasons why things aren't working, or there's a blockage in the business. We have our own language at Halstock, and it's can be amusing. It's designed to create clarity. to get rid of ambiguity. And I'll give you an example, but I'll give you some other examples of it in Halstock, but there's a word called DES in Australia. DES in Australia is designated driver. Before that term was coined, the incidence of death through drunken driving in Australia was double what it is now. And the fact is the language that they came up with were designated, but of course Australians always have to shorten things. So they call it DES, and that means that had a massive impact. So things like that, you probably didn't expect to hear this sort of thing at a furniture conference. So we have our own language, terms like GWE, go wide early, sheep in stream, escalation, wisdom of crowds, broccoli and ice cream, informational knowledge gap, new news, doing things left-handed. Let's just pick that one up, left-handed. My commercial director founded the business, trained at Parnham, absolutely would hate to be here talking to you as a group, would be terrified of it. So don't ask him to do it, and don't ask anyone to do something they're likely to not perform very well at, and you can work out what they are, strengths and weaknesses. So going back to language, we report, measure and signal in this language. Some of these pictures hopefully reveal to you the complexity and the uniqueness of everything that we do. It's all bespoke, it's metal, glass, timber. It can be in Moscow, it can be in London, it can be on a yacht, it can be anywhere. So this business that I'm in is a risk management business actually, so you need a clarity of communication. So more unique cultural facts, leadership, more by listening. If you listen to someone how they speak, that often reveals how they think. And as a leader, you'll pick up more about what's happening by listening than actually by asking. So set up situations where reports, information is reported. Delegate and trust. We allow anyone to make a decision in the business. Only two conditions. One is that integrity is maintained. That's first and foremost. Secondly, margin is improved. So margin is subordinate to reputation and integrity. No blame culture. We always try and seek the truth. If you have a blame culture, you won't find out the truth because people will hide it. And then you've got an extra layer of problems to reveal. Set standards, communicate them clearly, define success, knowledge, information specification gaps, they all exist, you can close them down. We also set out to be the preferred company for clients, for suppliers and for employees. Employees are really what we're talking about. It means we've got a continuous improvement attitude right at the beginning. We never achieve it because we aim to be, but you never achieve it. And actually one of the most toxic things in companies or organizations is any arrogance, because anyone who thinks that they're owed something is immediately on a deterioration path. Apprentices, we have Harry who's joined us. We're only 50 people, so we can't quite put on the schemes that the companies we just heard, but we also have a relationship with Rycote Wood, and we encourage those relationships. Jasper Heinrichs, our production operations director, is sitting there, and he can talk more about that if people are interested. But we try and develop people, appraisal processes. We've worked quite hard at this. It's not just once a year, it's one big one, and then it's a continuous conversation. And it's about being authentic. And I think, interesting on the skills gap, I read the report, I think there's always going to be a skills gap because you'll always want more out of people. But I think how you treat people will have a greater impact on what you get out of them than purely looking at capability. The copy of the week here, where have all the builders gone? This is in the Times today. There are 33,000 fewer painters apparently than there should be. Do you have a skills gap, or is it a behaviour gap or a culture gap actually? We compete to attract talent, and it's important to provide the right environment for talent to flourish. We've got a girl who joined us 2 years ago. No confidence when she joined. But that slowly emerged and came good. She's now in the estimating department, dealing with complexity that she would never have even dreamt she could have dealt with before that. And it's quite interesting to see how people can grow. They really can develop, and you can support people as well. And it's more of a genuine environment where teamwork is absolutely critical. I might say, as a non-creative, the creatives preferred is to work hard at things and plow on. Actually, you want a team, you want to take an advantage. So if you've got 50 people, let's just take wisdom of crowds, do not plow on with a problem. The colleagues in the business, you've got email we can send out, and you can ask for help and advice, because it's often there. Instead of plowing on for 4 hours, Googling a supplier, brass hinges or whatever, it's probably sitting next to you, the person who can answer that. And that's actually company capital, intellectual capital. So that's really it. You can see some pictures here. It's still going, so I've taken less than 15 minutes, so you're getting good value from this. Anyway, thank you very much. That's it. Thanks.